Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Barbara Stroud. I'm here to talk to you today about having difficult conversations. We are at a time in our nation where it is more important than ever to push into challenging conversations about isms. As we move forward towards relationships of healing and compassion, it's going to be more and more important that we pause to listen, to hold, to respectfully hear other stories. Hate is not healthy for development, and fear, I believe, stops us from having these challenging conversations, our own stress response, anxiety, fear that we will insult, misstep, or offend another. And if we're going to battle hate, if we're going to stop social injustice and inequity, it's important that we have these conversations. And I am doing this presentation not from a place of a political agenda, but I'm doing this presentation as a platform for my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren and all of our children. I think our children deserve better. I think we can do better. And I think we can overcome our fear of isms and differences, because America is a nation of difference, diversity, and our diversity makes us beautiful. So let's start talking to each other. Let's start learning about things we don't understand. Let's use compassion and wonderment and curiosity to learn about that which might even make us uncomfortable, because our children are watching us and they're learning from the things that we do not say. It is a participatory session, so there will be opportunities for you to pause and engage in some reflective process activities. I invite you to do this with a team. It would be best if you had 2, 3, or 6 people to do this with at work or in your family. And again, if you do not, please do have pen and paper ready so you can stop and pause and journal. We are here to talk about difficult conversations, and I am doing a little bit of tech support there. Okay. There are some rules of engagement for the training. And again, I'm hoping you're in a group. And if you're not in a group, these will still be important whenever you have these conversations about difficult topics, whatever those topics might be for you and your staff or the families you work with or people in your personal life. We're going to approach the topics with respect, curiosity, and wonderment. Respect for all the voices, curiosity about what's behind the comments, what's behind the words. Words are often, I often describe words as clumsy approximations of what we really want to communicate. Words are imperfect. Words are just a kind of, see, I'm struggling now with my words. Words are just an attempt at communicating something that's often very deeply felt and held and visceral. And sometimes we don't even have the words. My term frustration can be different than your experience of frustration. So when I say I'm angry, that may be experienced by you as a threat, whereas for me, anger is simply frustrated with that experience. So words can be challenging and hard for us to really understand. That's why I'm kind of jumping to the second bullet. But start with respect, curiosity, wonderment. In these conversations, there's not room for judgment or shame or minimizing another person's experience. When we start shaming people or judging people, we've activated their nervous system and they can't hear us anymore. So shame shuts down curiosity. Shame stops learning. Shame does not move the conversation forward. It's kind of like you just put a roadblock in front of the conversation. In these challenging conversations, I am responsible for what I say, and you are responsible for what you hear. And what I mean by that is that I will use my words carefully. I will be respectful. I will do my best to not use language that is offensive, but I may use language that I don't know is experienced as offensive. So you're responsible for what you hear. We're talking about the challenges of words, right? What do you hear and what does it mean to you? And how can you inform me if a word means something I did not know or intend for it to mean in your experience? So you're responsible for what you hear. We each must manage our personal stress response when dealing with these topics. Issues of racism, issues of social inequity, issues of xenophobia, homophobia, anti-Semitism, all of these are personal. They impact us personally. And many of these discussions will activate our stress response. So while we are mindful of that, we want to make sure that we are prepared to share our experience, not from a place of threat or anxiety, right? So we bring our personal accountability, noticing ourselves, being responsible for our behavior, and seeking self-understanding in these discussions. So let's get ready. I invite you to prepare for these conversations, preparing your mind, your body, and your spirit, or your soul, if you prefer that term, to hear and hold difficult conversations. So enter after a moment of preparation, whatever that looks like for you. If it looks like meditation or prayer or some sort of aromatherapy experience, I am completely serious. Prepare your body to hear and hold challenging, difficult conversations. Don't walk in cold. Be ready. Be ready. And then notice what's difficult for you to discuss. Think of some of the more difficult topics you are currently being asked to manage at work and at home. There's no shortage of things happening. This is being filmed October 2020, and we are days away from an election. We are in the middle of a pandemic. We are dealing with heightened evidence of racial inequity in America. We're dealing with a lot, and there's more. People are jobless, homeless, a lot. So what are the things that are particularly difficult for you to carry and hold? And how are you going to be prepared in this training and in these discussions to go to those hard places? And then the question is, should we have these conversations? Well, you're going to have to decide for yourself kind of the cost benefit. Is it worth the emotional cost to have this conversation? And for some situations, you may not have a choice. I would submit that reflective practice supervisors, you need to have these conversations, because you need to have these conversations with your staff to model for them that they're necessary so that they can be prepared to have them with families. I think families want to have discussions with us about racial inequity, microaggression, social injustice, and they're not sure if we can hold them. So we have to demonstrate that we can have these conversations in a respectful way. And if you're in a casual conversation with friends, at the grocery store or somewhere, maybe that's not the place, and you can exit. You don't have to have these conversations in certain situations, and you have that right. So before we start, we're going to begin with some grounding and a little bit of a meditation activity. So I invite you to take a moment to get comfortable wherever you're sitting. Close your eyes, take a nice deep breath in and out. Excellent. Now I want you to continue breathing and focus on your breath. Close your eyes. Allow your body to feel limp. Just let go. Relax into your space. Relax into your chair or your couch. Feel free to let go of your posture. I want you to notice your body. Focus on any parts of your body where you might feel tension. Do you feel tension in your neck, your back, your hips, your legs, maybe your feet, your stomach, your chest, your temples? Where is your body holding tension? I want you to notice that space. And I want you to send energy, either warm energy if that's relaxing, or a cooler energy if that thought is relaxing. Send energy to the place where you are holding tension. Imagine a wave or a mist of peace, calm, rushing over you, knowing that you are safe and you are protected in this space. As you connect to a feeling of peace and a feeling of calm, I want you to hold the term racist. How does that term change your felt experience? How do you feel in your body? What feelings are you experiencing as a result of that term? What images appear in your mind? And what thoughts are you experiencing? How does the term racist change your felt experience, your physiological condition? Pause for a moment. Take another deep breath. Big deep breath. Let it go. Take another breath. Return to your body. Return to safety and calm. Focus energy, positive energy, anywhere you feel tension, anywhere you feel worry, anywhere you feel stress or fear. Send healing, positive energy of calm, of peace, of safety, and let go of any tension, let go of any fear, let go of any worry. You are safe in this space. And let's consider that wave, either a wave or a gentle mist of peace and calm washing over you. Another breath in and out. And then I invite you to count backwards from 4, 3, 2, and open your eyes. Okay, so I imagine that everyone had a different experience of that meditation. And this is time for a group activity. So if you are with others, pause the recording and have a brief discussion. If you're not with others, pause the recording and take some time to do some self-reflection, either journaling, or if you're an artist and you want to draw an image, that's great and very creative. So share your experience of that meditation. Where did your mind and body go when you heard the term racist? And then were you able to get back to calm? And then investigate how you think this exercise might be helpful, either in your work team or in your personal life. So I will let you take a moment to investigate that. Thank you. Welcome back. We're going to move forward. We're going to look now at relationships. So taking a moment to reflect on relationships and the type of relationships we need to have these conversations. We're going to look at who am I, who are you, and who are we in these conversations. So we'll start with who am I? Knowing yourself in relationship. What do I bring? So what do I bring professionally to the table? Many of you are trained in the transdisciplinary community that is infant mental health, which includes home visitors and nurse practitioners and speech and language, occupational therapists, physical therapists, special education teachers, preschoolers, early care and education, pediatricians, psychiatrists, psychologists, marriage and family therapists, LCSWs, I'm going to forget somebody, social workers, child welfare, judges, lawyers who support children in the child welfare system. So there's a lot of us. What professional knowledge, expertise, evidence-based practices do you bring? You know a lot, and that's important. I'm not minimizing any of that. And when do we need to put that down so we can embrace this unique relationship moment? And by that, what I mean is sometimes it's important to lead with your heart and not your professional credentials. So when do you know that it's time to not disclose your personal life story necessarily, but to lead with compassion, lead with vulnerability, lead from your midbrain or your heart, and not from your professional edict or professional lens. Hopefully that rings true for some people or makes some sense. And then connecting to what I bring personally to this conversation. Who am I personally? My relationship history. I bring my emotional injuries, my hopes. I bring expectations for you, whether you're my partner, my coworker, the family I'm working with. I have expectations for you. I bring my implicit biases. I bring stereotypes and prejudices. So am I aware? Am I pushing into my own stereotyped bias, unrealistic or sometimes inflated expectations for you in this discussion? Am I aware of how you might trigger me simply by how you look, be it a race label, a gender label, a professional label? Am I aware of that and not making that your responsibility, but knowing that it's my responsibility? Do I know my cultural self is complex and unique? Have I pushed into my cultural identity, which is more than race, right? We know that. We know we're multicultural. We're part of a an ethnic culture, a faith culture, and a moment in time. I call that age, generational culture. We're part of multiple cultures that all weave together beautifully to make a very unique individual who is rare and precious and unlike any other, because you're a cultural diamond. You are so complex and so multifaceted that no one else is exactly like you culturally. And do we know that about ourselves? And do we explore that and get excited about it and validate it? What is your cultural narrative? Do we remain curious and compassionate about others' cultural stories? Are we willing to hear a narrative that's different than ours? And while we may be of the same group, the same gender group, the same race group, the same faith group, we can still have a different cultural narrative for our connection, our attachment, our expression of that culture. What limits my ability to be my best self in this relationship at this moment in time? So here what I'm saying is, am I fully present? Am I managing my stress response? Am I practicing self-regulation at this moment? Because I invite us, I often say this, to live in the moment. Our external world, our environmental conditions, our political landscape, our response to the COVID virus seems to be changing moment by moment, day by day. And in relationships, we really have this moment to celebrate. So how are we making the most of this moment? And am I bringing my best self to this moment? And what is getting in the way of my availability to you in this moment? All right. I've just lost my mind. Yeah. So here what I want to think with you about is when are we not able to be our best selves? What throws us off such that this moment I don't have the emotional availability for you. I don't have the compassion because I'm lost in my own experience, because my own anxiety or pain or threat or worry has dysregulated me. I'm out of my cortex. I have, quote unquote, lost my mind. So pause after I give you the instructions, and you can answer these questions in a dialogue if you have colleagues, or you can answer these questions on a piece of paper. What are 3 words a person can speak that will send you into a stress response? So 3 things someone can say that just make you lose your mind. What are 2 actions or behaviors someone can do that will send you into a stress response? So these are actions. And then what is one thing you feel in your body that tells you it's time to leave the conversation? So we've got 3 words, 2 actions, and 1 feeling. Take some time to answer these questions. Thank you. Okay, so I'm hoping that you learned something about yourself, maybe. And if you're in a team, you might have learned something about other people, which I hope can help your team process. Compassion for others in a relationship. Who are you? So I'm taking time to know who I am, and I'm reaching out with curiosity and wonderment about who you are. So this takes time. Can I take the time to see you as you see yourself and not as a stereotype or as the assumptions I put on you because of implicit or explicit bias, because of stereotype thinking? So can I take the time to uncover who you are from your narrative, not what I want to overlay on you, right? Okay, so, and then can I challenge myself to rename the behaviors that I don't like as adaptive responses, or your best effort to communicate your needs? So let's think about this. I'm doing intervention, either, there's a lot of interventionists in mental health. We're in relationship as coworkers. I am your supervisor. There could be a lot of relationships, and there's something that's going on that I'm not pleased with. How can I interpret that or begin to see that as a communication tool, as an effort to tell me what's going on for you, and the only effort you seem to have? The best example I come up for with this is following the murder of George Floyd. There were a lot of peaceful protests, and some protests resulted in rioting, not every protest, and some riots happen unrelated to protests. So there's a question about riots, and there is some narratives around folks engaging in bad behavior. And I reflect on the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a riot is the language of the unheard. And I personally update that with great respect to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that a riot is the communication strategy of a dysregulated brain system, I think. So what would lead a person to feel that the only way they could be heard would be to riot? How many efforts have they used to communicate to you more directly and been shut down or dismissed or ignored? That felt like the only means of communication that might actually get noticed or get a response. So can we challenge ourselves to think about the behaviors we don't like as an adaptive response? Or perhaps my last opportunity to communicate, because we aren't hearing other levels of communication. Okay. Can I hear and respect your story when I have a different worldview? This is where a lot of us are these days. I respect everybody's opinion. I respect your opinion, right to have a different opinion than mine. Do you respect my opinion? So it needs to go both ways, right? It's, can we hear that someone can have a different worldview? That does not mean my worldview is invalid. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. There's space for two ideas. I hope there's space for two ideas. And then, when is your story a threat to my safety? And when do I respectfully exit? How do I respectfully exit when this occurs? So yeah, there might be some ideas that certain people are not valued in society. I don't embrace that idea. So when your idea creates threat or danger, we might need to exit, or we might need to communicate a level of disagreement in a safe way. And I think about the same thing we do with child abuse reporting. When there is threat, when there is harm, we cannot abide by that. Parents have the right to raise their children in a host of different ways, as long as that child is physically and emotionally safe. I can accept your worldview as long as it doesn't physically put me at risk or emotionally put me at risk. So it's that same kind of, I think it's that same bar that everyone has a right to be safe. But you can like the Dallas Cowboys and I can like the 49ers, and I can tell you that my team is better than yours. Forgive me, all you Dallas Cowboy fans out there. Compassionate listening. This for me is this idea of listening, I'll just explain here, from the midbrain, listening more from your emotional space than your cortex space. Listening doesn't need to be about content. So we're not content listening. We're affect listening. We're emotion listening. I talk to parents about heart-based listening. What is your heart telling you? So we want to hear someone's story from their heart. Think of it that way. And we want to listen from the mind of the other, the idea of the other. This relates to me to the idea in infant mental health of holding the mind of the baby. I want to hold the mind of the speaker. What's in your mind? So I want to connect, I want to listen from my heart, but I want to know what's in your mind. What are your thoughts? What are your intentions? What are your desires? What are your hopes? I want to know your mind. And I want to listen without defensiveness. So this is where I need to prepare my body and mind and spirit to hear this, because I don't want my stress response to become activated such that I can't respectfully listen to your story. And I want the same in return. I want to be able to respectfully share my story. So am I making sure I'm not listening from a defensive posture? And when I get defensive, what am I doing to manage my stress response? Someone else's story is their truth. My truth is my truth, and my truth can change, and my truth can be different than yours. I know this is, the truth can change. Yeah. I mean, some of us might have believed certain things about our life when we were 15, and then we were 35, and now that we're in our 50s, we have different truths about who we want to be in the world. That's okay. And your truth can be different than my truth. We can have a different truth. So I can hold your story as different than my story. I will not know the truth of a homosexual male. I've never been a homosexual male. So as you tell your story of truth, that's your story, right? Now, I'm not suggesting every homosexual male has the same story. That's what I'm saying. And again, as a Black female, I know my truth, and another Black female will have a different truth, right? So that, in terms of their walk as a Black female. So there are multiple truths. I know that's like mind-blowing, multiple truths. But in terms of your own personal narrative, it is your truth. And it's different than someone else's. So it isn't about people being right and wrong. it's about holding someone else's truth. And I think that's important, an important distinction, because we tend to be black or white, but really concrete that it is or it isn't. And it's not that discrete or that binary. It's actually very, very complex. And yes, I'm aware that it's not necessarily binary with gender. I tend to go male, female labels just for the purpose of discussion. And I believe me, I do understand the fluidity of gender. So I'll throw that in there. So preparing your heart, mind, and body to fully hear and hold perhaps a foreign truth. And the reason I threw foreign truth, I just kind of struggled with that word, but an unfamiliar, a truth that is different from mine, a truth that feels antithetical or feels different or wrong. I don't need to be in charge of your lifestyle. I need you to be safe. I need you to be safe. I don't need to be in charge of your beliefs. I need to make sure your beliefs aren't going to lead to violence or harm to me or the people that I love or any of the children in America, because I'm always, or the globe, because I'm always passionate about our children as citizens of the world. I want them all to be safe everywhere. So am I prepared to hear your story, your truth that may be completely unfamiliar and completely foreign to me, because I had no idea that was possible. I had no idea that that was the story you walked through. Thank you for informing me. So here's an activity and a moment of pause. I invite you to take 15 minutes if you can, or you'll figure it out. This was for the in-person training that we did. So here's the expectation. You want to do this in dyads. So if you have a partner with you, great. If not, you can do it later. 2 people. Person 1 speaks uninterrupted for 4 minutes, their thoughts, feelings, reflections on a recent challenging conversation. Oh, I had this challenging conversation, da, da, da. The listener does not say anything, can give nonverbal feedback, but does not interrupt. So speaker talking for 4 minutes, listener not interrupting. After the 4 minutes, just share your experience of being the speaker and the listener. Oh, it was so hard to talk uninterrupted. Oh, I love talking uninterrupted. It was really hard to not jump in. Actually, I learned a lot by not jumping in. I don't know what your experience is. Just share your experience. And then after you each share, switch. So the listener now gets to be the speaker. All right. So that's what's all written very complicated in this slide. I will pause and allow you to engage in this activity. Thank you. So my hope is that you were able to do that. My hope is that you learned something about each other, about yourself. We're going to push into creating the we in the relationship. So the we, I think of as the space between what we co-create in this moment, right? There's me, there's you, and then there's what we've created. I'm going to bring my true self, my best self to the relationship. You're going to bring your true self, your best self to the relationship. And then together, there's this creation, this new experience that belongs just to us, and it only lasts in this moment, right? So we often talk about looking back and narrating on what has happened, but we can't change it. We can look forward and imagine, but we really can't solidify or predict the future. And all that we have is this moment. So what are we creating in this moment? And in our shared time, we'll each hold an individual narrative and a collective narrative. So we'll agree we did some things together. Maybe we sat down and we shared coffee. So we'll agree we shared coffee, but we might have a different experience. Oh, for me, the coffee was too bitter, or for you, the coffee was too sweet. I don't know, but I'm just trying to give this example about holding this space between, holding this we, really honoring that and paying attention to it. The we moments can exist in these platforms I've talked about here, family systems and therapeutic sessions and supervision meetings and coworker interactions. So how are we being thoughtful and intentional about the space between, or the we moments? And I invite us to think about a structure for the we moments, particularly in a formal setting like reflective supervision or with families that you're supporting. They might float by in your family system kind of quickly because you're busy doing the activities of life. However, when you have these intentional moments to be together, I don't know about your family. My family does family dinner, so that's a we moment. We sit and we chat and we listen to each other's stories. So I recommend that you think about the structure of the we moment, and these reflective practice values, which I've been using for many years now, might help serve as a roadmap. They might not, but I invite them for you to use. The first step in the reflective practice values here, is establishing and maintaining emotional safety. And I would add to that now physical safety too. Any relationship of trust, any relationship that is going to facilitate, I think, nurturance, move development forward, support reflective practice, hold these difficult conversations, must be a relationship where people feel safe and emotionally safe. Because if I'm going to share my truth, that something in our dynamic feels like a threat to me, I need space for that. Or if I'm going to share my vulnerability about my recent microaggression with someone who might look like you, right? Who might look like you because they have the same color hair or what have you, I need safety for that. And then there's mutual respect. We honor and respect what each person brings. And for me, respect kind of goes back to our earlier bullet of not shaming or minimizing people's story. So we're holding in high regard. We're holding the we that we create, not just the other person and not just ourselves, but we're holding this we time in high regard. It's like, I value what we share together. It is worthy of my time and attention. And part of that worthiness, here we go on Zoom, is that I don't have other apps on. My phone is on silent. Some of the respect for you is that you have my full attention while we're on this Zoom platform, right? There's a note here, collaboration supports problem solving. For me, I see that as when we're top down in our thinking, when we're like, I have the answer or the truth, and you just have to believe it. That does not support creative thought. That doesn't support innovative problem solving. It's more, rather than a top-down model, it's more kind of like when we have those kind of group circle kind of discussions where everybody's voice is part of the decision making, and it's like the out of the box thinking. Yeah, I know that's become cliche, but if we're going to be problem solving, we need to be prepared to hear all the voices, to respect all the voices, to consider all opportunities towards success. We must give voice to issues of culture and diversity. We are cultural beings. We cannot be divorced from our cultural identity as well as our cultural behavior. So to deny culture is to deny the self. You cannot deny the culture of anyone, right? And culture is active, culture is in the doing. So we are living our culture. We are all cultural beings. All relationships are culturally informed. And if we're doing relationship-based work, we better be culturally aware. It all goes together. So we have to notice, we have to name, we have to ask questions, we have to be curious, we have to face our own limitations because we are all limited culturally. I can't see everything, I can't know everything, but I'm curious and I want to learn, and you can be a source of learning for me. And then we create a shared agenda for our time together. And by this, what I mean is we kind of label what our intentions are. We label what we're here to discuss. We came here together to talk about how current Zoom school meetings are impacting your child. They're thriving, they're not thriving. That's what we're going to talk about today. I understand these other issues are also a factor. And I'm not saying we're not going to let people talk about what they want to talk, but I'm just saying we have some sort of structure so that when we get derailed, when we're in a session and we're talking, for example, this is just an example about your kids' Zoom classes, and you want to share that you had a fight with a in-law, that really wasn't our shared agreement for today. I mean, I'm happy to hear that, and maybe I can talk about it another time, but our shared agreement for today was to really focus on your child being successful in the Zoom calls. Is this other piece getting in the way of that? So hopefully that makes sense, where we agree to have a targeted focus for our time together. That's what's meant by the shared agreement. It's kind of like, what is off limits or unacceptable for this discussion? So the shared agreement can include that. So maybe there are some places that you're not feeling safe to go, that you want to agree we're not going to talk about, right? And when might you need to end the discussion for your own emotional safety? When does it feel like you can no longer maintain your self-regulation, where you might feel like you're getting attacked or your beliefs are getting attacked? And you know what? It's okay to say no. It's okay to exit for your own emotional health. Now, that's in an interpersonal conversation. In a work conversation, you are still, if you're the interventionist, you still need to stay in the relationship. So how do you successfully navigate a relationship where things are feeling really intense in terms of difficult conversations? Folks might be sharing things that are highly volatile to them, and you kind of haven't set this platform for safety in the discussion. How do you move through that? And I'm going to take you there right now, because I think it's important to create an exit plan. So to think before you find yourself in a conversation that feels like it's not helpful to you, and Perhaps your stress response is telling you that you're getting activated, if you're not safe, you can't stay regulated. I want you to think now, and after I give you the instructions, pause and have a discussion with colleagues if you're doing this in a group, or create your own answers. How might you safely communicate your need to end a conversation that has activated your stress response? What might you do? What thoughts might signal the need to exit, and what body responses signal you are not feeling safe, valued, or respected for your words or thoughts? So take a moment to do this little activity. Thanks. Okay, needed a water break. Now I've included these in the actual training I did live via Zoom, virtual training. These were handouts, and so I'm just giving them to you. I'm not going to read them to you, but here are some ways you might, just some thoughts, ideas you might want to communicate that this is a conversation you're not prepared to have right now. These are more for sort of interpersonal conversations with family or colleagues where now is not the time. And then there's a couple for work related. So if you have families that you're working with and they have a strong message about the current state of the nation, and this is not, we're not here to help you hash out political agendas or your views on climate change or what have you, and you have the right to all of those views, but we're not really the platform for that. So here are some ways that you can think of. They're just suggestions. I'm not saying they're the best, and I'll just share one. In my experience, everyone has strong feelings on current issues. My goal in our time together is to focus on co-regulating your child. Let's maintain our focus on the baby today. So I'm back to holding the baby. And while many of us are dysregulated by current events, in my work, I'm here to hold the baby. I'm here to help you hold the baby. I'm here to hold the dyad. I'm here to focus on your system. And yeah, those events impact the system. I get it. And let's return to the baby. Let's go back to holding the baby in all this chaos, right? Some of our traditional infant mental health values that we know. Let's hang on to our values that sustain us in this work. So thinking about listening to learn, listening is often a tool to get information for those of us who do direct service and we want to, do our assessment, and we're going to listen to content about behavior and interventions that have been helpful and what are people thinking and feeling. And I want to think about listening to learn more about the family and learn their story. And when we're listening to learn, I think we're also helping to create a healing. So remember that when we become defensive when we feel attacked. So when people go, that's because they feel something has been said or communicated without words that has left them feeling unsafe. So what might lead for someone to feel attacked in this conversation? So as we're listening to learn, and if we notice defensiveness in others or even defensiveness in ourselves, go back to, why am I feeling attacked? Or I'm wondering what the other person is feeling that's leading them to feel unsafe, right? So we want to learn what might have brought on the defensiveness, not you're defensive. Let's change our thinking to what might have caused that defensiveness. Where is there a threat in this conversation for that person? And can each person hold that the two parties can have different experiences and different worldviews? I've said this before, but it is this point of tension of holding differences. Can we agree to disagree? And are we safe in that? As long as everybody's safe, we can agree to disagree, right? I use the football teams. You can like a different football team than I do. Okay. You can like Coke and I can like Pepsi, whatever. We don't have to fight a battle over that. I can hold your worldview as true for you, even when it is different than mine. So you can have a philosophy, you can have a faith commitment that is different from mine. And I can respect that you can have that. It does not take away from who I am, and it keeps you stronger. So I can respect that. And as I'm respecting your worldview, see, can you hold my worldview as my truth as different than yours? And so what I'm suggesting here is I'm going to model parallel process, right, folks? I'm going to show you that I have the capacity to hold your view, even though it's different than mine, and to respect your story. And I'm hoping you can do the same for me. So then we get to this last idea that once you feel fully heard and respected, are you able to hear and hold without defensive another idea or my idea? So sort of the course of events here is I'm going to, with respect, with compassion, with curiosity and wonderment, attempt to hold your story. I may never get it right. I might not really see it through your eyes, but I'm going to attempt to see it and hold it the way you hold it. I'm going to validate it as true for you. And I'm wondering, as I respect what you bring to the table, can you now, once you've felt heard, can you now create space to hear my truth? Can you challenge yourself to imagine a different worldview from yours? That's how we have and hold difficult conversations, is we create the space to hear the foreign truth of another, right? To take in what you're offering, which is unfamiliar to me and may even contradict some of my worldviews, but I can hold it because it's yours and I can respect that it's yours. And once you feel respected and validated, wow, do you think you can give me the same courtesy? And I think that's how we can begin to have these conversations. I'm not suggesting it's going to be easy. I'm not suggesting there won't be times when you need to exit. I'm saying that our children deserve better. At least I believe our children deserve better. And I think we can start creating better right now if we start having some of these conversations. So before I wrap up, I'm just going to show you one more activity that you can do later or think about doing now. And this again is from a live training, a live training, even though it's virtual, it's live, where we sort of think about levels of relationship and we think about difficult topics that we want to have and we don't want to have. So acquaintance, neighbor, friend, someone you see at the same coffee shop, coworker you're working with every day, supervisor, manager. And that's interesting because maybe you're the supervisor manager, or with your supervisor manager, there's a power differential in that relationship, and that's very real, and we know that. And then very, very intimate. When I say family and close friends, I think about intimate partners. And for me, I'm not talking about physical intimacy, I'm talking about emotional intimacy, people you have personal emotional relationships with that you carry in your heart on a daily basis. So, and then these different topics, and they're designed to be emotional topics that will bring some emotional content. Would you be prepared to have these conversations with some of these people? And I think there are some conversations that supervisors, you and your supervisees might need to have, as they might need to have them with families. Okay, maybe not all, but a few. So you can look at that and decide if that's helpful. It's just, again, a way for you to build some personal understanding about what you feel comfortable sharing or talking about and where you might want to exit if these topics are brought up. I have reached the end of this discussion. I hope you have found it valuable. This is where you find me on my Facebook channel, Instagram, and YouTube, which you're already aware of because you're watching this on YouTube. And you can always reach me through my website, drbarbara.stroud.com, where you are welcome to send me a message. I am grateful that you would stop and take the time to visit with me. And I hope you have found this helpful. And if you have, please share it with coworkers and help me change the world one relationship at a time. Thank you.